Yo, what is up guys? I'm Cyclon and today I want to share with you my day 1 breach discoveries. I've been testing with breach as much as possible, testing a little bit of everything and getting an understanding of how it all works. So in this video we're taking a look at all that is breach, how the new interactions work in map, how the Genesis tree works, a little bit of my own feelings about the different parts of this mechanic, and as well as how we are looking at it in terms of profitability. Now, first let's talk quickly about the encounter types. We have the classic breach where you just step on it, it bends outwards, you kill enemies to stabilize the breach, and the new part compared to before 3.27 is that once stabilized, or once before the encounter ends, instead of ending, it gonna spawn 4 rares or 1 unique enemy, which we can kill, and then the breach closes and we get the loot. Now, this encounter gives between 600 and 700 Graftblood in T16 maps, at least based on my current testing, without an increased Graftblood gained Graft. More to that in a bit. We also have the new Hive pumps or Hive defense missions, which is a little bit reminiscent to the blight mechanic, which why I'm used the term pump, as we approach it, and instead of immediately starting it, it is recommended to maximize the gain from it by walking from the encounter directly to all the purplish dots and make them glow up on the minimap. When they are more pinkish or more bright purple, they're activated, and enemies will spawn from those, moving towards Aleph and breach that Aleph is trying to destroy. As soon as we kill the last enemy of one wave, the next wave will spawn. Another great thing that I noticed is that we can utilize the League Mechanic interaction key, which by default is the V button, to activate the nearest breach buff. So these let meteors rain, make a flame wall, heal Aleph, shield Aleph, or enhanced flames. We can activate those buffs by pressing the V button by default. If you change that button, it is whatever your League Mechanic interaction button is. The third type of encounter we have is the Hive Fortress. We can only find Hive Fortresses in maps. They are 24 wave defense, and after we defend, we need to escape the Hive. Now, I made a quick video about that, but in essence, it is figure out which passage isn't blocked by the hands, and then move out of that. Now, this encounter gives a crazy amount of Graftblood. I think I've gotten one time even close to 4k Graftblood from just one of these Hive Fortresses, and it is definitely worth testing a little bit more how we can juice the amount of Graftblood we gain a little bit more. Now, enough about the interactions. The more important part is about how we can unlock all the passive points on the Genesis tree. During initial breach encounters, we are gonna be finding unique or quest items rather than unique items. We're gonna be finding quest items for the breach mechanic. Bringing this to Islas will grant us unlocking a new path on the breach tree, and then also giving us passive points further than that. Other ways to unlock is donating more and more Graftblood to Aleph, and finding specific additional quest items for the breach mechanic in maps. We can gain those by killing the Brune in a classic breach encounter. We can get those by completing higher wave tier defenses on breach defense missions or encounters. And we gain, I think, 1 additional for completing a Hive Fortress, as well as 1 additional for killing It That Was Flesh or It That Was Tool in a Hive colony encounter. These are a rare variation of the Hive Fortress and will guarantee a boss fight, which at the end is going to be getting an additional unlock on the Genesis tree. Now, talking about the Genesis tree next. Right now, I think I have all but 1 quest state unlocked. I think based on the epilogue, I need to feed 50,000 Graftblood to the Genesis tree. I am under the assumption that this means not to consume 50,000 Graftblood while using the tree, but rather storing 50,000 Graftblood at once and handing it to Aleph. But we will be seeing how that goes. Hopefully today. Now, the Genesis tree has 5 sections. I'm quickly talking about what I'm prioritizing in each section, why I'm prioritizing it, and what I'm looking to get out of it. Starting with the first one we are unlocking. Let me actually turn off my webcam for this so it's better visible. The first one is the Graft item womb for growing womb gifts. These womb gifts will reward us Graft hands. It's the first way we interact with the mechanic, and these are an important interaction. Now, my main focus on Graft hands is getting a good base. So, for example, I'm a really big fan of Heart of the Flame for survivability, and a big fan of Dance in the Wild for damage. These are my current preferred favorites, but I'm still testing a little bit with the others. So these are all having a skill. They seem to go up to level 30 currently. And the suffixes on those are interacting with the skill, as in chance to cooldown recovery, level of skills, more damage or more crit damage. And the prefixes are either a player buff or a chance to find wound gifts or store more Graftblood. And the most important mod, I think, on the prefixes is Graftblood gained. Gaining more Graftblood just means we can interact with the mechanic more often. So this is the one I'm currently chasing. What I'm going for is modified tier rating, as the tier rating on the Graftblood gained is a little bit on the lower side. And then I do want a little bit rarity, but I also want to get additional womb gifts, so I'm not going all in on rarity. I'm doing a mix of additional chance and rarity, and I'm targeting tool grafts for the dance in the wild until I have it, and then I will be swapping into soft grafts for a better Heart of the Flame. But I think, again, the most important mod is just getting as much Graftblood as possible, so this is the mod I'm chasing. Also, to add on this, there seems to be really powerful corrupt on these grafts, so once you have a good craft, try to get it with a good corrupt. Moving on to the tree, we unlock very late, but there's also very little of interest here. The Mysterious Womb Gift gives us more rare outcomes, in the sense of these can result in quality gems, 20 gems, or I think even 21 gems. So single corrupted gems or just high quality gems or level gems. This can result in scarabs. And also when we take the Path Genesis node, we can get other womb gifts here if we want to target and generate more, let's say, lavish ones for, what is it? Lavish was currency for more currency ones. The next tree is currency. Now, there is a split theory on here right now, at least from what I've heard others talk about. We have two ways of kind of targeting this. We want to get as much chance for additional currency, then use the chance for full stacks, and use the one that rolls an additional time to try and get as many chances for a divine as possible, and then hopefully get it in a stack. There is a small sub-community that thinks that utilizing the reflexive contractions makes it potential to get a mirror shard, and then hoping to utilize this to, as a mirror shard is more likely than a mirror, but less likely than a divine, to utilize this to get mirror shards, then hopefully get them as a stack, so which would mean a whole mirror. There is this idea. I do think this is good until we are basically having enough divines. Once a divine isn't really making an impact anymore, then maybe it is worth trying to fish for a mirror. Alternatively, one thing I still haven't tested enough with is going for mutation cultivation, trying to get as much full-born currency and graft implants as possible. But so far I'm also, when I use this, trying to fish for a couple of divines. Next is the unique tree, utilizing ancient womb gifts. There are a lot of Falborn uniques, a lot of very interesting mods, and most of them are fairly common. Now, of course, if the base item is more uncommon, so is the full-born version of it. But what I've seen, most of these are available, and there hasn't been a clear build that is enabled by those yet. We will have to wait another week or two until we are getting some crazy interaction on those builds with full-born items. But what I think is very interesting are the full-born jewels. So, foul-born, not full-born, sorry. These foul-born jewels there are some very interesting ones. For example, I've seen Unnatural Instincts that can grant notables, or I've seen an Inspired Learning that can be triggered when no notable is allocated in its range. So there are some interesting things that we could maybe do with these, but of course they are as rare as their normal version, arguably a little bit rarer as sometimes we're getting uniques without Fall1 mods. Finally, let's talk about the currency provisioning, not currency, about the item tree, the provisioning boom gift, and the provisioning tree part. This is basically Necropolis Light. We can create crazy items with these, which results right now in this league. If you're looking at trade, you can get rare items with mods that normally makes it a couple of divines for maybe 50 chaos. It is insane what we can print with this. We can print fractured items, we can print high evasion bases, high energy shield bases, we can print decent weapons, we can print quivers. For example, my quiver right now, T3 flat lightning, T2 life, T2 damage with bows, T2 crit chance, T1 crit multi was crafted with this. My boots, life, fire res, movement speed crafted with this. And I'm talking about T1 movement speed. Helmet, res, evasion rating, life, or triple res, evasion rating, life crafted with this. My body armor, spell suppression, evasion rating, chaos res also crafted with this. We can print some crazy items with this, but of course it needs a little bit understanding. So let me talk about the theory of this tree a little bit before we move on to the next point. We're going to be starting with first forcing a specific outcome. And we can do that by improving or decreasing the odds of the requirement. So for example, if we want a build, an amulet, rings, or a quiver which don't have attribute requirements, we can go for triple less chance. But if we want item with requirements, like let's say a shield that is evasion based, then we go for more evasion and less on the other two. And then of course we can further improve our odds with burst items are more likely to be a weapon, ranged weapon for example for bows, or armor, shield if we want to target a shield. Our odds of creating quivers or jewels are slightly less. We have here a 5k increase instead of a 5,400 increase. So it is slightly less odds, but we can still very easily target a specific base type. Bases we can target, which makes it slightly weaker than Necropolis in that department. But in return, we can very easily create fractured items with solid cysts, or we can create linked items with arterial mesh. It is very likely get 5 links. Sometimes we get even lucky and get a 6 link out of this. We also can further improve the items with severing. This also means that we will always create 5 mod items. By removing the lowest level modifier, it is not a chance, it has the lowest removed, meaning we are always going to be having a 4 or 5 mod item, meaning we always can at least craft 1 mod on it. If you're trying to make a 46 mod item, then of course don't take severing. And then we have on the top part of the tree branches, we have less or rather reduced chance nodes. So we have one for reduced life or mana or resistances or attributes or defense. And then we have one for less crit or attacks or caster or speed. And we have one for less chaos, less physical, less fire, less cold, less lightning. Now those are reduced, which are less impactful than less, but because we have only reduced or only less vectors, it is more or less the same. Now with these we can target which mods we don't want, and then on the other branch we can target which we want. So these are basically the opposites with increased odds. So if we go for increases in attacks and then less in life, it is way more likely to get a good, let's say, gloves which have flat damage to attacks and then no life modifier on them, which means no life region and no max life. So this is a rough rundown on how we want to approach the tree. I'm assuming that more trees will appear on different content creator sites as we discover more about this and as more specific craft items are made. But this was just a general rundown about the concept we want to approach this. Now, finally, let's talk a little bit about my overall experience with this and what I think is best to generate currency with the breach mechanic. I think right now, rare gear is very cheap, so we can use this to create our own gear, but profit crafting gear is less likely, except if you can target a specific fractured mod, which is really powerful for you. Instead, what I will be targeting on is if we can find a really good Falbon unique that is easy to make, using the ancient item womp or the unique item womp is going to be very powerful. Otherwise, this is something I want to test. I'm going to be sending like 100 high level, I think 82 or 83 currency wombs in here. I'm going to see if I can find out what the average divine rate is. Is it something like Legion where we can actually expect it targeted? Or is it something like we randomly get it here or there? But I think the best way to make currency right now, which is something that most people are overlooking, is creating a very solid hand. So very solid grafts with good mods, a good base level is gonna be worth quite a bit, as this is gonna be everything that everything else is based on. The better your graft is, the more you can interact with the breach mechanic. So that is gonna be what I'm focusing on and what I'm recommending other people to focus on as well. All this being said, I think Breach right now, the Genesis tree is amazing. It has a lot of testing that still needs to be done, but a lot of potential. I'm really happy with what GG came up with here. I'm very excited to interact with this further. However, I feel like to interact with this properly, the Graftblood I'm gaining from my maps is a little bit less. I would like 25% more Graftblood per map, so that one map means one cool interaction with the Genesis tree. That is though on the classic encounters or the defense encounter. A Hive Fortress gives enough Graftblood to interact with this a little bit. All this being said, I'm having a blast with this. I'm going to be continuing to testing with breaches, going to be testing out just mass sending uniques, mass sending currency, mass sending mysterious wombs, and see what we'll be getting. So that is what you can expect on this channel in the upcoming days. All this being said, have a lovely day. Hopefully many amazing drops from your Genesis tree. And I'll be seeing you in my next video or next live stream. Goodbye.